We're talking about how to install Windows 10 and VirtualBox 7 here in 2023. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first off, I already have a video that I just made about how to do Windows 11 in VirtualBox, so be sure to check that out in case you're looking for Windows 11. But there may be some people out there who still want to rock that Windows 10 like we have all those years, so don't worry, we can still do that completely free as well. So I'm going to kind of just go through this real quickly. What you need to download first is VirtualBox. So if you go to virtualbox.org, and I will put all these links in the description down below to make it easier for you to access. But if you go to VirtualBox's website, you can see the big blue download button right there. And when you click on it, you'll notice that the latest version of VirtualBox, which at the time of this video is 7.0.8, will be available right here to download. Now, whatever computer you are on is what you will click right here. So for example, I'm on a Mac at this moment, so I'll click on Mac OS Intel host since I'm on an Intel based Mac. It is really cool now to see the developer preview for ARM64 M1 and M2 Macs, so very excited to see that. If you're on a Windows PC, you would click on Windows host. So there you go. There's also Linux, Solaris down here as well. But you'll just click on that and it'll start downloading for you. And then you install it like you would any other macOS or Windows application. The next thing you'll need, of course, is a copy of Windows 10. So Windows 10 ISOs are still available to download for free on Microsoft's website. I'll put this in the description down as well. So as you can see right here, we have Windows 10. This is the 2023 update because, of course, Windows 10 is still getting updated, and this is 22H2. So all you do is hit Windows 10 Multi-ISO Edition. You'll hit Confirm, then you'll choose your product language, and you'll hit Confirm again, and then it will give you a link to download either a 64-bit or a 32-bit download here. So usually just choose that 64-bit. It'll download for you. Now this is a pretty large file. I believe it's a little over 5 gigabytes. So depending on your internet connection, it could take a little while to actually download that. But once you get that done, you can go ahead and open up VirtualBox, and your VirtualBox is going to look a little different than mine because I already use it, of course. I have Windows 8.1 virtual machine right here. But yours will be kind of blank right here. You might have something that looks kind of like this, Welcome to VirtualBox or something. But anyways, you'll see this button right here that says New. And if you just click on that, this is going to go ahead and start the process of creating the virtual machine. So the first option, of course, is a name. For the name, I like to put something really simple, easy, recognizable. So Windows 10. That's pretty self-explanatory. Maybe you want to put like Windows 10 Pro, Home, something like that. But yeah, just a super simple, easy name. That's all you need. This folder right here is where it's going to be stored. Usually they just throw it into your home folder, and that's usually a good place to put it. So I just typically leave that alone. Now it does let you here in VirtualBox 7, you can go ahead and select the ISO image, and that way it can kind of do like an install in the background. Although I'm not sure how to really do that, and I would just prefer to do it manually myself. So that's what we're going to do in this video. It's really not much of a difference there. But yeah, you want to make sure that it recognizes Windows and Windows 10 64-bit. If you download it to 32, be sure you choose that right there because it defaults to 64. Then you're going to click on Next. Next up, it's going to ask us about our RAM and our processor. So Windows 10, or I guess I should start out by saying your virtual machine is going to virtually use some of your host machine's requirements. Basically, your host machine's RAM, processors, etc. can be allocated to the virtual machine for it to use while it's running. So we can choose how much RAM we want it to use. We can choose how much of our CPU that we want it to use as well. So by default on Windows 10, the minimum system requirement is 2 gigs of RAM. Right here, this number is your computer's total RAM. So this particular MacBook is a 16 gigabyte model here of RAM. So that is 16,384 megabytes. So you can choose all the way up to that, although I do not recommend doing that. I probably wouldn't go over half of whatever this number is. So I would go to a max of 8 gigs. But honestly, for Windows 10, I think most people are going to be totally fine running 2 to 4 gigabytes of RAM. And honestly, leaving it on 2 is usually what works best for me in my cases. For your CPU, you can see this is a 4-core CPU. For me, I wouldn't go over 2 CPUs, which I kind of like to do that here just to make things run a little bit better, but 1 CPU gets the job done most of the time. The good news is these 2 settings right here, you can change those at any time that you would like. So I'll show you how to do that here in a moment, but we're going to go ahead and click on next. Then we're going to create a virtual hard disk. So the virtual hard disk, Windows 10 needs 64 gigs minimum, I believe, to run good. That's what we're going to do in this video. Really, you probably want to do more storage than that because 64 gigs can fill up pretty quickly. But just for the purpose of this video, this is what we're going to do here. Now, it's important to note that this cannot be changed after your virtual machine is created. So you want to make sure this number is exactly what you need. So we're going to hit that, hit next, then we'll hit finish. There you go. So it's now created here in the VirtualBox Manager. Let's head into the settings and kind of show you around here just a little bit. So really, this is the only things you need to kind of worry about in here. First thing, this is where you can change that RAM that we talked about. Then right here is where you can change your CPU. And then over here under display, this is a pretty important one that you want to consider. This is your video memory. So what you can do on this is actually bump it up a little more. So we can hit enable 3D acceleration. We can bump it up to 256 megabytes. That can help it run a little bit smoother. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to leave it at that 128 megabytes there. Again, that depends on your computer's graphics card or integrated graphics, whatever you have. But like I said earlier, the good news is everything can be changed at any time except for the hard drive, the virtual hard drive space that you allocated. So if you find that you get into your virtual machine and it's running kind of slowly, or maybe it's kind of dropping some frames or skipping around and not acting like it should, you can come in here and tweak some of these settings and see what may be the issue. So that is pretty nice. The rest of this, there's really nothing to kind of worry about too much. I like to personally uncheck floppy because we don't need a floppy anymore, but that's just me. So we're going to kick things off with 2 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs, and 128 megabytes for the video memory. You're going to click on the start button, and what's going to happen is it's going to fail. It's going to tell you there's no bootable medium here. So we'll give it a second. It's probably going to go to my other display. Well, maybe not. Okay, there we go. So it says it failed to boot. So it's not in there, no bootable medium found. So this is where we're going to select our ISO file. So I have mine in the kind of quick area right here, but you're going to want to click on other, and it'll take you to either your Finder or your File Explorer, and you just search for wherever you downloaded that Windows 10 ISO file, and you just select it, and you click on the Mount and Retry Reboot. And then it's going to ask you to press any key to boot from a CD, and mine has code to the other screen. It might not ask you that on Windows 10. I can't remember. Apparently not. Maybe that's just a Windows 11 thing. Yeah, so ignore what I said about the press any key, because apparently that's not Windows 10. So But yeah, now we're loading up Windows here, so we're going to give it a second, and then we should be able to start our installation process. Alright guys, so we've now arrived to the Windows setup screen, and all we got to do is just confirm that our language is correct, our time and currency, and our keyboard, and then you just click on this next button right here, and then you're going to get this Install Now button up here, and we're going to click on that. Now you might notice that my cursor and just literally everything possible is pretty laggy right now, and that's because I'm screen recording to make this video, and the screen recording uses up a bunch of resources in CPU. You might be able, well actually I don't think you can hear my fan running because I'm using the blue snowball microphone, but if I was using the built-in microphone you'd certainly hear my fan just pegged right now. So that is why this is looking a little bit on the laggy side. It's okay if you do not have a product key. I certainly don't have one, but if you do, you can go ahead and enter it right here now, and then it'll automatically determine which version of Windows you have. But the good news about Windows 10 is you can click this button right here that says I don't have a product key, and you can choose a version of Windows that you would like to install. So you can essentially use Windows 10 and even Windows 11 today for free. You just might not have some personalization features for your desktop. So yeah, personally I like to choose something like a Windows 10 Pro N version. The N versions on Windows have kind of less applications installed on them, not all that extra stuff that you don't typically need, but you can scroll through there and you can choose whichever one that you want to use, and then you can go ahead and move on to the next screen here. It's then going to bring up the licensing terms for the version that you choose. So all you gotta do of course is accept these terms, click the little checkbox over here, and then you can click the next button again. Now on this screen what we're going to want to choose is the custom install right here. So since we're not upgrading Windows, this is a fresh install, we want to make sure we click on the custom installation right here, and when you do that it's going to bring up your virtual hard disk drive that you created. So you'll be able to see right here on this screen the exact size that you created, which is right here. So you just want to make sure that you select that, and it looks like it's already actually selected. So then you can just hit the next button. Some people like to click new and create like a separate partition. I personally don't see the need to do that, especially on a virtual machine. That seems kind of unnecessary. So you just want to make sure that drive is the only one there, and select it, and then you can hit next one more time. When you hit next this time, it's going to begin the installation process for Windows. So it's going to begin copying all the files and then installing different features and updates and all that kind of stuff. So this process could take a little bit of time depending on how fast your computer is. So whenever this gets done, it's going to automatically restart the virtual machine, and it'll then bring us into the first Windows setup screen like you would see when you get a brand new computer. So we'll go ahead and let this finish up, and then we'll come back. On the first question for the setup screen, so I don't think I'm going to show this part in the video because it's just literally a bunch of questions in order to set up your Windows virtual machine here. So I think I'm going to answer all these questions, and then we should arrive on the desktop when I get done with that. If there's a question or a part of this setup that I think you guys might need to see, then we'll resume the video. But for now, let's get through all. Okay, here's one of those parts of the setup that you may get. So this is on Windows 10 Pro. You may or may not get this on like a home edition or whatever, but what I like to do is hit the setup for an organization, And this way we're not going to have to sign in to a Microsoft account. We can do a domain join instead of that. So we're going to select that. We're going to hit next. And by the way, I'm recording here with my phone because the screen recording takes up a lot of resources. So as you can see, it still says sign in with Microsoft, but there's this option down here that says domain join instead. So the domain join instead is what you want to select. That way you don't have to sign a Microsoft account. You can just create a normal computer account like you always have over the years, because I know some people might not have a Microsoft account, or some people might not want to sign in with it and sync all their Windows stuff up and all that. So I totally get that. And now, as you can see, once you click on that, it's just going to ask you for your name and to enter a password. So that's how you avoid using the Microsoft account. Alright guys, so we have finally arrived here to the desktop. So we are here in the home stretch now. There's one last thing we want to do before we actually start using Windows, and that is to install the VirtualBox guest editions. So what we're going to do in order to do that is up in your menu bar, or on your PC, it might look a little different, but there should still be a menu up top, of course, and you can go to the Devices tab, and then there's an option that says Insert Guest Editions CD Image. So what this is going to do is it's going to mount the file that they use to install the guest editions. So it may or may not pop up on the desktop. It doesn't look like it's going to. So what we'll do is go down here to the File Explorer, and we'll just go to it that way. Okay, so we'll go into this PC, and then we'll go over here to our CD drive. As you can see, that's where it will mount it for you. So we'll go ahead and double click on that to open up that drive. And when it opens up, you should see this one right here that says VBox Windows Editions. And then you'll go ahead and open that up. And you'll probably get a little pop-up window that wants you to allow. So you can see, do you want this to make changes? You hit yes. Sometimes it gets hidden behind the window. So there you go. There's the setup screen. So we'll just hit next, next, install, and then it's going to begin installing the guest editions. So what do the guest editions do? Basically, these are going to allow the virtual machine to access a little bit more hardware and things it needs to be able to run much better than it is right now. It's also going to allow you to have adjustable screen resolution. So when this gets done installing and restarts, you notice how we're in full screen. This will take up the entire screen. It'll also automatically adjust if you resize the virtual machine window. So let's go ahead. We're going to let this stuff install. Your screen may flash and do some weird things, as you can see right now. But yeah, you can see the cursor's already super smooth. Like, you see how much better that is? So that is pretty nice. But when this restarts, it should automatically adjust the resolution and we'll be good to go. And there you go, guys. As you can see, the Windows virtual machine is now taking up the entire screen real estate in perfect resolution. And if we were to go back to a smaller window, you can see that it automatically adjusts that for us as well, even if we resize it to any size that we want. So that is pretty nice. You can also see that it's running way more smoothly now compared to what we were struggling with earlier. Also, things open faster. So really, the VirtualBox guest editions are a good way to improve the performance of your virtual machine. You don't have to install them, but it is highly recommended that you do. So you can see things look a lot better there. And to get out of your virtual machine, you just treat it like you would any computer. You can just shut it down, like you would normally, and it'll shut down for you. And if you want to open it up again, you just go into VirtualBox's manager that we installed earlier, and you'll be able to see it right there. And then you'll just click on that start button right there, and it'll go back into Windows for you. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. I appreciate you watching the channel as always. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any issues with VirtualBox or this virtual machine. I'll try to help you the best I can in the comments down below. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching the channel as always, and I will catch you all in the next video.